All right, here we go. Lawn Sporter, Thursday night. Justin's here. Adam's here. It's Cofield. We will not wait for the room to fill up. We're just going to start. So you will join in progress. Justin was just asking about the Golden Knights and Janmark. Is that his name? And his debut. You didn't have much to say on the air about him. We were kind of in a hurry when we were trying to talk about him too. But what do you want to ask about, Justin?
I don't know. I just wondered what your. I mean, it's against the Kings, right? But I mean, at the same time, that's the most active person I've seen on the third line, other than Tuck, and maybe year one, maybe not.
And that was the point of getting him, right? It's that they needed to jumpstart the third line, and Nosik's been really good lately. Been playing really well, but they thought, they looked at him and said, he's got a lot of speed. He hasn't really done much with it. Not much, that he's really put it together. They haven't really found the right lines for him where he's been to be an ultra productive player, but he's got speed. And maybe you put him with Tuck, and there's a ton of speed on the third line. Maybe that generates something on the third line. And for one game, one period in particular, it really, really worked. Does that, mean long term that's going to work and that they're going to be able to, use that speed together and create chaos? I don't know. I don't know what it means long term, but for one game, what they wanted to do worked. And so I think you look at it and say, okay, let's go forward, see if that line clicks, see if they're going. I mean, and we don't know how long Reeves is going to be out, but the fourth line was starting to play a little bit better. Nosek was playing better on the third line. They needed somebody else to kind of plug in and get things going there. But the first and second line, they're going to have ups and downs a little bit, but they're always going to be there. If the third line gets like buzzing like that, now you're really onto something with four lines. So I think that was the goal, and I think you would look back and say, okay, that worked. But I don't think anybody is saying like, well, this team is perfect now. Like this third line is great. Like it's one game, as you said. You don't know, and I don't think the Kings were ready for that.
Yeah, I agree. And I will say, I mean, for what the price was at least stated out there for like other players like Getzlaf and Lino and all that. I mean, Janmark has 10 goals on the season. I mean, he would be right in the on the upper echelon of goal scorers on this team. He's not going to get the same kind of minutes here that he got in Chicago or Dallas. I mean, he was second line in Dallas. Chicago, I guess he did a little bit of the top three lines all at different times based on injuries and everything. But I mean, it sounds like, and I liked hearing that he's defensively responsible too. I think that third line needs that if they're going to really release Tuck. I think Tuck's been great defensively lately, but that's also not what you really want him doing, is worrying about defense a ton. You want him like releasing and trying to run up the ice. Yeah. I have always thought that Nosek is one of the most underrated players on the Golden Knights. He's definitely not flashy, but he definitely doesn't do anything. He doesn't make mistakes.
It's always like Nosek has always kind of clicked in my mind as like hard nosed. Like it's for some reason like Nosek. I don't know why. That's what he is though. He's just like a grinder. He's just really good, but he's talented. I don't want to shortchange the fact that he's got talent and ability and some creativity to his game, but he's just a grinder, man. He's just fucking tough. And man, we talk about this with other sports, and like it drives me nuts because I saw some more stuff today about people overreacting to the Raiders and to other teams not participating in off-season activities, and like you fucking pussies, COVID's not real, it's not a thing, blah blah blah, like all this stuff. You know how many athletes have been like derailed from performance by getting it? And I'm not going to put it completely on it, but Nosek he came into camp great, he got COVID, and he was a fucking disaster. Now you can say it's timing or whatever it is that you're away from the ice. Oh, that's fine. But I've seen many, many cases across all sports of athletes being severely impacted in their performance by catching this. Like I mean, we know this. It's not the flu. It's not something you just come back from and you're cool. Like some people you are, but a lot of guys are really affected. And I think he was very, very impacted by getting COVID, and it really set him back. Because I know in camp they were talking about him being just a real, like he's been good anyway, but just a breakout star. And then it kind of went nowhere for a while, and now he's kind of getting back up to that level.
Well, that's also what happens when you put him on a line with Reeves and Carrier. I mean, he's the only defensively responsible one on that line. He can't be thinking offense right then, right? Like he's got to be thinking, let's get out of the zone and let's just dump the puck in and buy some time until we can get out of here, right? Like that's what they asked him to do, and that's what he did. I mean, he wasn't up there to score goals. If they have to get one, great. But I've always thought that he does everything he's supposed to do. He does everything he's asked to do. He doesn't make any major mistakes. And I'll tell you this, like, up until this season, you get Tuck on a breakaway, which happened a lot. And I always thought, he's not going to be able to finish this. And he wasn't a great finisher up until the bubble last year. He started finishing. He would put it right in the crest. But when No Shit gets a breakaway, I'm always like, oh, he's going to score this. Like he rarely gets stoned on the breakaways. It's pretty remarkable. And so I like him. I like the price that we have him at. And I hope this Janmark, you can't expect this every time, but it would be great if Janmark turned into the next Stevenson, like, hey, he's not a superstar on anybody else's team. He doesn't catch all the headlines, but he's a great fit for his line mates here, and the speed plays for, who he's surrounded by, and he really breaks out. That'd be great.
I will tell you on just to go back on Stevenson though, when the Golden Knights traded for him, and I've talked to Steve about this. I think I talked to you about like my sources are probably better on the Capitals than they are on the Golden Knights for some weird reasons. I got multiple texts from people on the Capitals that were like, dude, Chandler Stevenson is going to be a star with the Golden Knights. Like he wasn't utilized right. He just wasn't put in a position to succeed, and they will use him right, and he'll mix in well with them. And it's been true. I mean, he's been really, really good for the Golden Knights. But I mean, I think there was kind of an expectation that Chandler Stevens is going to be really good, and I think Janmark could be pretty good too. And we'll see how he's able to blend in. But for one night, again, it worked. And we'll see 3 weeks from now. People are like, "This fucking guy sucks." Who knows? But for right now, I mean, it seemed to be the right kind of fit, and they've been really good at that. It's not always they got a lot of flashy players, a lot of splashy acquisitions, but they've been pretty good at finding guys that are like, "Oh, this guy will fit this role perfectly," and plugging them in, and they succeed.
Yeah. I was really happy with that, and I agree with all that. I'll say I thought it was one of the worst games I saw Pietrangelo play. I mean, he a couple of times out there just seemed completely lost, and like I just don't know how how the Golden Knights. It is we. I'm a season ticket holder.
I think you're fine.
I'm fine. How the Golden Knights can expect a deep playoff run if Pietrangelo isn't playing, at least a B game for him. Like I felt like last night was like a D, even though he got a goal. Like,
it's not always everything,
right? So hopefully they get that figured out pretty soon, and he starts playing with some confidence. It just seems like sometimes he's skating around kind of like, where am I supposed to be here? And then next thing you know, it's like we get burnt the other way. Now, some of that is we played some games with 5 defensemen, so everybody's a little bit lost, and we get smoked in those games.
True.
And Shea hasn't had a great year either. So the only defenseman I feel has had a wonderful year is Whitecloud, who's been awesome.
Breakout star, Zach Whitecloud.
Yep. Okay, Steve, I got my Golden Knights fixed. We're good.
No, there's still more questions. So, I mean, Adam, you were suggesting that they didn't necessarily get Janmark just for, some desire to grab him specifically. They just wanted some sort of skill set. So how much was it to go up against Colorado?
That's an interesting question. I think it's part of it. I think it's more just what the fit of the team is more than matching with Colorado. Like I think they just felt like that third line where they are needed like a speed guy. And they thought that if they could find a fast guy that could be productive and, as Justin said, defensively responsible, that's the kind of piece that they needed. I think you get into a tough spot. Like, yes, you want to try to match up with Colorado and their speed and everything they have, but like you're not going to become Colorado. Like they're always going to be faster than you. So I think to say like, oh, let's just go get fast guys to compete with them. Well, they've got like the fastest and most skilled guys out there. I think you have to be your own team and just play them in a different way. I just think it was more about what was going to work for the Golden Knights.
Is this true? They can't even beat the Wild?
It's a bad matchup for them.
Well, what's funny about that is Colorado can't beat the Wild either. The Wild just got done smoking Colorado twice out of 3 games. So, but the Wild can't beat the shitty teams in the West. They keep losing to like San Jose and LA, and then they beat the shit out of the Golden Knights in Colorado. I mean, 2 out of 3 games, Wild put 7 and 8 goals on Colorado, so they've got something figured out.
Yeah. Petrangelo was at PetSmart. I don't know why that makes me laugh. Just,
But I like the line that he handled 4 kids better than the puck. Damn. Scurrilous rumors.
I still think, like, I think we have a little bit of a roadmap as to what it's like when you pull somebody who's been at the same place for an extended period of time, been the captain, Pacioretty. His first year was a little bumpy, and then he, got into sync. Petrangelo played his entire career in St. Louis, had his whole family there, uprooted the whole thing. I think that there is some amount of adjustment that needs to take place for guys who are a little bit older and established with families and have only been on one team. I just hope it happens before the playoffs, but I don't think it's going to.
Is it? I have to look at the protocols. I thought they weren't supposed to be out at stores.
What, PetSmart?
I don't think they're supposed to be at PetSmart.
You can't go to the grocery store?
I thought you had to send your family. But then that doesn't make sense either because
That doesn't make right. Does that make any sense?
Then they're bringing it home to you. I don't know. I'd have to look at it.
I think I said it on air the other day. Maybe I didn't. Like, how they've been giving guys a game here or a game there off, saying they're tweaked something. I was saying, and I thought I said it on air, that it was my opinion that they were going and getting vaccinated, and that that was their day off. And I think they came out day before yesterday or day before that and said almost everybody on the team's got at least one shot now.
Nice.
So it's happening. That's good. I mean, here there's no excuse for them not to all be vaccinated. Really, here. I mean, they're going to close down convention center soon and turn it all over to the pharmacies because they don't need a big demand site like that. It's just not. They're not getting overwhelmed with demand.
I don't know what Sean's story is here now. One kid dropped something in the parking lot. He replied, "Leave it."
He's got a lot of money. He can just buy new stuff.
And he was just with the kids. No wife.
Oh boy,
that can be a problem, right, Justin? It can get stressful.
Oh yeah. Well, he's got 4, right?
That's what he said. Yeah, he's out with his kids. 4 kids.
Yeah,
4 kids better than the puck.
Yeah, I mean, I've got 2, and I could barely handle 2. So you double that, and you're way outnumbered. And I've a couple friends that have a lot of kids, and I was asking them, like, gosh, what's that like? And they said the old story is, 2 is twice as hard as, or I can't remember how it goes, but 2 is you got even number. 3 you're playing the zone defense, and at 4, you just 2's man to man, 3's zone defense, and at 4 and up. The way my buddy says it is your give the fuck factor drops significantly. You're just kind of like, whatever. They'll take care of themselves. They'll figure it out.
Are they starting to shut down some of the bigger venues? Cashman, Trees, and ODB says maybe they're closing down the convention center.
I heard, and maybe I need to double check this. I heard that they were closing down convention center at the end of May. But maybe I got Cashman and Convention Center mixed up. But I'll try to double check that before we get off air.
All right.
Pre-event. There you go.
I mean, it does sound right. It said just carrying the youngest with 3 others, just running wild. That's what you got to do. Corral the youngest one because that could probably be the biggest problem.
So we got some legal stories to get to. We have another case where we finally got the information. We finally got the video, right? We finally got more details, Justin, on this Chicago law enforcement shooting of a 13-year-old.
Let me tell you real quick. Yeah, Convention Center is closing May 5th.
Okay. So yeah, we got the video, and the prosecutor said he had a gun. There's a lot of stuff I'm seeing. Initially they came out and they ID'd him as like 18 to 25 years old on the video. They clearly know he's a kid because they're calling him kid. So there's a lot to unravel here, but it looks like another real crappy case where you got a mistake by law enforcement, then the prosecutor. I mean, I saw AOC earlier said because the prosecutor said it was an error saying that he had a gun, and the AOC is like, it's a lie. You lied that he had a gun.
Yeah, this issue is something that I wish I was still in the legislature to address. There should be ramifications for our police force that we pay the taxes to lying in press conferences to the public. There has to be something. Either has to be a fine, administrative. It has to affect their pensions or their salary, or it's got to be designated a crime. If a person who's been accused of making a crime lies in a police report, we make that a crime. But it's okay for the police to then have all the evidence, not give it to the public, and then tell the public what the evidence is and lie about it. And it drives me up the fucking wall, and they know exactly what they're doing. These aren't fucking mistakes. Are you kidding me? They shoot a kid and you think you don't have exactly what you're going to say down pat. You just made a mistake and said this 13-year-old had a gun. Give me a fucking break. Like, I hope that prosecutor who should lose their job. I mean, it's not okay. You can't lie to the fucking public. We pay your bills. You're there to protect us. You're there to report to us. You're not there to protect each other. And so it's something that really drives me crazy. And we wonder why, there is this discrepancy based on race as to back in the blue, because people of color are lied to and they are harmed, they are killed, they are beaten, and you don't see that happen with the same kind of intention to the white public. You don't hear about it. Maybe the news doesn't report it. Okay, I'm open to that. I haven't done the research myself. I haven't looked at the numbers, but fuck, man, these people need to get their shit together, and lying to back up a cop who just killed a kid is not a step in the right direction.
I'm with you, but I just to ask the question, like, the lawyers for the victim's family and the victim can lie at a press conference. Like, there's no repercussions to that. So, like,
right.
What would be the different standard for the press conference on the law enforcement side?
Because I don't fucking pay for the victim. They don't work for me. Right? Are we okay with allowing our civil servants that we pay to lie to us? Their whole job is to tell us what they're doing for us. That's the point. It's not for a prosecutor to protect a cop. That's not the point. And so, yeah, the victim's family can lie all they want. They have no duty to tell me the truth. I have no relationship with them. I have a relationship with the prosecutor. I have a relationship with the police officer, even if I've never met them, because my taxpayer dollars are paying for them. So I expect, I understand there can't be complete transparency, but don't fucking lie to us. You can't always, for whatever reasons, tell the whole story, but don't fucking tell a lie to try to protect somebody.
I mean, I like I said, I'm agreeing with you. I want to make sure I asked that just from, that's what there is two sides to a trial. I guess we're not in trial at that point because you can't lie in the trial, but kind of the lead up to the trial is almost looked at as a game. Like, it's, you're already starting to play to public perception and everything else. And I feel like that's what's going on. But I mean, you're right. There should be some kind of laws or repercussions or something toward getting that narrative out there that's clearly false, because by the time they say it, there's already a percentage of the population that just believes that. Even if you watch the video, like, nope, they said he had one. Like, okay, you saw the video though. Like, what do you like? But they'll believe like the first narrative over, or the police narrative over what the video actually shows most of the time. So it is a.
And what if we didn't have the video? What wouldn't they turn off the body cam? And what happened to what was really going on 15 years ago to 60 years ago, that whole time period when there was absolutely no chance of catching what the fuck's going on video and catching them in a lie. And we were just supposed to believe the police.
Isn't that what they're hoping? Like, aren't they hoping when they do the press conference that the video just never comes out?
I would think so, right? Like, if you're going to lie like that, maybe they feel like the prosecutor feels like, hey, I'm doing a solid for the cop, and the judge, who we're always in front of, who needs to run for re-election and say he's tough on crime, needs the backing of the police union, and so he's not going to order that the body cam footage be released. Cool, we'll all have each other's back. Maybe that's the plan. I don't know. I don't know what they're thinking. If I'm being cynical, I think they think that, yeah, I'll get caught in a lie, but by then I've already started the narrative and it's going to gain traction. And there's going to be a big percentage of the people that believe it. And we're going to create, alternative facts that people just hold on to. So I'm just going to say it. I don't care. They'll catch me. They'll say a lie. I'll say it's a mistake. And then we'll just move on. But that won't be as big of a story as me saying the first time that the kid had a gun.
I'll also say this, like, as much as people want to get on the media for being liberal and, all these other accusations that people make about the media, I actually think a big mistake we as the media have made, and newspapers being a big part of that, is just accepting police narrative. And when you write a story using the police report to tell the story, and just saying like that the police narrative carries more weight than the victim narrative, really shouldn't ever have been done. And I think we're starting to learn from that. We're starting to do better. But I do think the media was complicit in that for a long time.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's even if you say the police report says this and you do no further digging and report that as, yes, you did say it's what the police report says. And yes, that's accurate. That is what the police report says. But without any further context, it gives the implication that that's what happened. And yeah, I agree. I mean, police reports, police press conferences, police findings aren't fact. It's interpretation a lot of the time, and sometimes there is nefarious motives behind it, and it's absolute lies and propaganda, for sure.
What's the deal here? Can the prosecutor be called to a stand in a trial and ask why they lied?
It's irrelevant, right? The trial will bring nothing that happens in a press conference is going to be relevant other than in jury selection to say, did you watch some of the press conferences? Yes, I did. And when you watch the press conference, did you form an opinion as to who was in the right or who's in the wrong? Yeah, I think the cop had to shoot the kid because he had a gun. Okay, you're off the jury. Next one, and then they're just going to go through it that way. But when the actual trial moves forward, as what happened, the only way the jury hears the story of what happened is through testimony in court. They don't go with press clippings. There's none of that. You don't show, well, you made a public statement about this, unless the only way that can be admissible is if a defendant, a criminal defendant, the accused, makes a statement out in the public, makes a statement anywhere. It can be used against them in court. But otherwise, press conferences, those kinds of things, none of that's going to matter. Yeah, most prosecutors do have immunity, which is another thing, right? That's why I think, cynically, that's why I believe that they just say, fuck it, I'll just say it. Everybody's I'll take some heat for 30 seconds. Everybody will forget about it. But all these cops will have my back when I run for judge in 5 years. That's more important to me.
Yeah, that's always been an issue, obviously, too.
And then because of that, you get this. And of all places, Boston. After what we saw in the movie Spotlight, you get this. That's sick. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry. If you see that and you're like, hey, criticizing the police department involved in something like this, and you're like, why are you anti-police? This is sick. So then you're cool with your children and your community potentially getting molested, and because they get molested by the wrong person, nothing happens. They can just keep doing it. I'm sorry, there's a line. This is ridiculous.
This is way past the fucking line. Like, I don't even think there should be any sort of cover up. I think that yes, I make, if it's human nature, like if you're in trouble and somebody comes to me and says, "Hey, I need you to testify against Steve and say, what kind of person he is," I'm just like, that's not for me. You know what? I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to get involved. I don't know anything. But in a situation in which, again, they are hired by the taxpayers to protect and defend the public, they are held to a much higher standard than the general public. And for them to unilaterally make the decision that we are going to allow a predator out there in the community because he's one of us, and it's worse to be non-union than it is to be a child molester, that's what determination they're going to make, is so far fucking disgusting that, whoever has knowledge at the police department, whoever had knowledge, now it's 25 years later, what the fuck? Probably most of them are all gone. They've all retired. They're on the dole, right? Like they're all getting their huge fat ass pensions. And probably very few people can actually be brought to account for this. But if there are any still around, they need to be, dealt with. And if, I don't know Massachusetts law on sexual assault of minors, but if it has changed in similar ways that the other ones have had, and other states have, then maybe statute of limitations for charging these people for conspiracy to commit sexual assault and aiding and abetting sexual assault of a minor, statute of limitations might still be wide open.
Yeah, I was just going to ask, does that charge even exist? So there is aiding and abetting. I guess that would be like a child sex ring, and so covering it up, you're privy to the crime.
You get charged with the same thing as the crime. If you're aiding and abetting the crime itself, the charge is the same to you. Even if you didn't pull the trigger, you still could be tried for murder.
Is it aiding and abetting the crime if you're just not saying anything? Like if you're the police department,
yes,
and you're just,
if you have a duty to say, right? I don't have a duty to say anything, right? Under the law, certain people do have a duty to say. This is why the Penn State thing was so interesting in Pennsylvania and in almost every state. A teacher or a school administrator has a duty to report. So their failure to do so is a crime. In police department, I'm sure they would be captured in this, where they have a duty to do their job and their failure to do so would be aiding.
Like in the case of like a teacher or someone like that, where you become aware, like a kid comes in, they make some comment to you, or they have a black eye where you suspect it's a parent's, whatever. Like a case like that, like you have knowledge. It's your duty to report to somebody, say, "Hey, I think this is going on." But like if something is known, like if like this person's crimes were known within the department, at least by some people, like, but nothing is happening right now. It's in the past. Like, oh, I've heard that this happened. This this happened in the past. This guy did this, and we're not arresting him for it. Like, wouldn't it be like, well, who am I going to report it to? Everybody already knows, and nobody's done anything about it. So at what point are you like, what am I going to keep saying it over and over again, or do I have to go public with it, or like, where is the duty and where does it end in terms of like, we already know this happened. We've already decided we're not doing anything. We collectively have decided nothing's going to happen here. Like, how far down the chain does it go, or how far away from the crime, how many degrees from the crime would it go that you have a duty to report it?
Yeah, I think that's going to differ depending on whether you're doing this criminally or, say, in a civil lawsuit, right? In a civil lawsuit, it's going to be a lot easier for me as an attorney to say, "Oh, you knew about it? Who'd you tell?" No, right. I didn't tell nobody. My supervisor already knew. Okay, did you tell the press? Did you tell anybody? I'm going to get you all. I'm going to get all of you in a conspiracy because you all knew and you all failed to report as a we. I'm going to get you all on it. In criminal, it's going to be much more difficult because if there even is a criminal statute that applies in this situation, and I just think that there is because the criminal statute is very broad. Typically, it's going to say a government employee. If a government employee becomes aware of the abuse of a minor, they must report that, and they have sort of the chain of command. You must report that to Child Protective Services or what have you. So government employee is usually sort of the broad definition. In the criminal situation, if I come into the police force and they're like, oh yeah, creepy Jack over there, yeah, he's all about the kids. Keep your kids away from him. I'm gonna be like, I don't have any personal knowledge of shit. I just know about rumors, right? I've never seen anything. I've never heard anything. I've never seen a piece of paper. All I've heard is some shit that some people told me when I walked in that said that dude's creepy. Keep your kids away. That's not enough for me to trigger anything. And I think that person is correct from a criminal standpoint. From a civil standpoint, I'm getting you all.
Any more questions from the chat room? All right. On to Deshaun Watson. A couple of story updates.
Did you know, Justin, do you know we never talked about this story?
Which one?
The Deshaun Watson story. We've never mentioned it.
Who said this?
Because we're protecting black athletes and only go after white athletes to talk about the flag.
Is this what somebody said on Twitter to you?
Yeah, it annoyed me.
Oh, God. I thought this, I've said this is like one of the most interesting stories that to talk about, that I could spend hours on it, and we have spent. We've
done something on it. Today we didn't do it with Xavier Pope. We've done something on it every time you guys have been on. And I've also said I'm not comfortable talking about it without an attorney here. So there's no grand plan of like covering it up. And we just watched a guy last week. Adam, we had talked about this. A dude get fired from was that the Houston Chronicle?
Yeah.
Because he went on a radio show and started spouting off. I'm like, yeah, not doing that. Let's let the case develop. So on the Watson side, Deshaun Watson's attorney says the quarterback had consensual sexual encounters with massage therapists. So why is that important? Why does that matter?
Oh, well, I think as we've discussed actually on the pod before, I think that cuts both ways. Number one, it can show that because he'd had prior consensual sexual encounters, he thought that he was going to, again, have future consensual sexual encounters. And when he attempted to make his move, whatever that move was, he may have assaulted or at the very least offended massage therapists who were not interested in that. Now, that's making a whole bunch of assumptions on my part. I have no idea how it went about having consensual encounters. Did it happen during the massage or afterwards? Did they say, "Hey, do you want to go out?" I don't know. I don't know what happened. Did it happen? That makes a difference. But I think it's not something that Rusty Hardin, I'm sure, wanted to admit to, but I think he knew he had to because that part's getting pretty overwhelming. So I think this fact, if I had to say, is it better or worse for Deshaun? It cuts more against Deshaun than it does cut for him.
I've already formulated my theory. I'm already convinced of what happened. So I'm good with the whole story right now. I've solved it. I feel like I'm Encyclopedia Brown. But my question was, okay, if my theory that I've talked about in the past that, he's kind of weird, has a relationship, doesn't want to go out and meet girls, but he found this way one time worked. And he's like, this is what I'm going to do from now on. Hit up girls on Instagram, get massages, try to just, pull it out and see what happens. And this is kind of his MO and what happened. But my question from there is, because I do feel like there is something very weird about the timing of all this, obviously. where he finally demands a trade, and then the friend of the owner files all these lawsuits from these women. Are you allowed to do that in terms of like they all knew this was going on, theoretically under this thing? Like everybody kind of knew this thing, and they waited and just held all this back. They're like, "Oh, you want to leave? Okay, we got you." I mean, there's no like rules against when you file claims, right? Like you can do it to take full advantage of a situation. There's nothing prohibiting you from doing that, correct?
Well, there's blackmail laws, so as long as you don't say the silent part out loud and say, "Hey, I know you're not happy, but you also know what I know about you, and so you better get fucking happy real quick. Otherwise, you're not going to like what comes out in the press and what comes out in the courtrooms based on, what you like to do with your masseuses, Deshaun. Like you cannot blackmail people. That's illegal. You can't hold back what you know to be criminal or civil actions and say use it in an attempt to control somebody's behavior or to extort money. So like there are some protections, but you'd have to be pretty dang, I think, out of touch with laws to be that blunt. Everybody would know, how to skirt around that issue in a way that would avoid criminal liability. I don't know. Maybe Deshaun, maybe he didn't make a move in each of these, and that the reason why I'm just formulating another opinion. I don't even think I believe this. I'm just saying what is another plausible thing that could have happened is maybe the reason why he had 150 massages in 2020 is because it worked the one time, and he just kept booking massages and just laying there, but made sure that the people knew who he was.
That's my theory.
Yeah.
That's my theory.
No. You said that like he would then make a move. He would then like
his move would be, I'm just laying here. Like, what's up?
Yeah, I'm Deshaun Watson. Do you know who Deshaun Watson is? Do you know who I am? Like, okay, cool. Yeah. I need you to massage me because I'm the starting quarterback for the Houston Texans.
Well, they would have already known because he's DMing them on Instagram.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Yeah, right. So, but to me, I mean, I don't want to break into your theory. His move is all right. The massage has happened. I've got the washcloth covering, which is still hilarious. Now the washcloth is gone. Like, what's going to happen here? And sometimes it would happen, and sometimes it wouldn't. But like, that was just his move, which I don't like. Listen, I don't know. That seems like a gray area. It seems like assault to me, but at the same time, like, I don't know if it is or not legally. Like, I have no idea.
So it depends on the circumstances of each one. Here's what I think. There is no way that a licensed masseuse is not confronted on a semi-regular basis, a couple times a year, where they walk into the room and the person isn't naked. And they're like, you got to cover up. Like, I'm fully aware that they're trained on that. That's a part of what they go through in order to get a certificate. So it happens often enough for them to have to be taught about it and how to handle it. They say, you got to cover up. And if they don't cover up, you're not supposed to give the massage. You're not supposed to go there. So that's a different fact pattern than what you just discussed. And so what I'm saying there is even within that idea of I just exposed myself and you do with it what you may, can have differing opinions. I think if he suddenly exposes himself in the middle of the massage in a aggressive way, absolutely sexual assault. I think if the masseuse walks into the room and he's laying there naked and they say cover up and he doesn't, and they continue moving forward with the massage, I don't think that that's sexual assault. I think that they had the right to terminate the services. They were well within their rights to do it. And for whatever reason, they chose not to. They also broken the law at that point by, well, I don't know Texas law. in theory, they have broken the law there. So, and then your last situation, which is, I brought my special little towel. Here it is. And I'm going to go clean that now. And now I happen to be exposed. What are we going to do about this? I would say, I think that leans more towards the assault side of things than it does of having him in the clear. But there's just each fact pattern is going to be really important to understand where it lies. I mean, I do not think the women are in strong positions when they say he was naked, but I gave him the benefit of the doubt and started the massage. I just don't think that that's a strong position to get a jury to sympathize with your position and award you a significant amount of money. I don't.
How about this one? How about the other side?
I'm sorry, one clarifier.
Yeah.
Absolutely, you having some power over that person, right? They work for you. Their family member works for you. They are a teacher or a professor in your university. They have some power or influence on your day-to-day career or education. Then I think hey, all bets are off on that. Like they say, come in here and give me a massage, and they're naked, and you're kind of maybe feel like you don't have a choice. It's either your job or you do this. Then that's a totally different situation. But the only thing that they've said that makes this coercive is that he is 6'4" and 250 pounds. That's the only thing referenced in any of the complaints.
If you're saying, if there's a power dynamic, like a employer-employee relationship, it does change things. Would hiring somebody as a masseuse make you an employer?
Yes.
So, there is a power dynamic there.
Oh, no. You mean for a job? No. You're not an employer, right? You guys have a contract.
Okay.
A contract for services. I'm going to pay you, and you're going to do this. And at any point, either one of us can terminate that. Like, nope, stop the massage, or nope, I'm not going to massage you.
Well,
I'm not your employee.
If there was a certain amount of money promised, does that change it? Like, if it was like, this is a $2,000 massage, and the masseuse is like, all right, I need this $2,000. I came here to do this, and I'm only going to get paid if I do something here. Like, now it is a coercive relationship because I in my mind, like I needed that money. Like, it's a pandemic. I was going to pay rent with it. Like, now it is kind of coercive to have that kind of money hanging over somebody.
No more coercive than it is that you can go work at the bunny ranch out in Nye County if you want, right? I mean, there are things you can do for money that you choose not to because it's not a way of life that you want for yourself. There's all kinds of really bad things that you can do. Bad. I mean, I'm not here to judge. There's all kinds of things that you could do that maybe in your soul you don't agree with that can earn you money. And people make their own choices in that regard. But I don't think that means it's forced. If I'm there and I say, hey, $200 if you give me the massage, $300 if you give me this massage and let me be naked, $500 if it goes, to third base from there. You choose what kind of massage you want to give me. They take the 500 and then say he coerced me because he had $500. I'm like, no, you made the choice there.
Well, I guess more along the lines of like, let's say you agreed to, like, I just used the term 2000. Like, right. You agreed, okay, I'm going to give up my day, whatever I had for my day. And he's told me he wants a massage. He'll pay me $2,000 for it. Like, I'm a legitimate masseuse. I'm going to go do this. And then you get there, and then he's like, hey, listen, what'd you think for $2,000? Like, what's going on here? Now, all of a sudden, you've given up your day. You've agreed to accept, a bunch of money that you're like, okay, I'm going to get this money, and I gave up my day for it. But in order to get it, now I have to do something I didn't want to do. Like, isn't that putting somebody in a coercive position by doing that?
I mean, I know what you're trying to say, but the answer is like, if then he didn't pay her because she says no to that, then she would have a suit that she could file
Okay.
against him,
Okay.
right? She would have a claim. But is it criminal? It's only criminal to the extent of like the sex worker statutes or lack thereof in the state of Texas, right? Like if I say I'll give you $500 if you give me a, you know, a massage, wink, wink, that with a happy ending, and she says no problem, I would have done it for 200. Grabs the $500 and does it, and she's totally consensual in it. We have broken the law. She's broken the law, and I've broken the law.
Right.
But would a civil claim arise out of us having consensually broken the law? I think the answer is no. I didn't assault her. We just violated the law in the prostitution laws. That's what we did together.
Who's in more trouble right now, Watson or
Gates? Gates. Oh shit! Yeah. I mean,
once you have the feds on you.
Exactly. It's federal. We're talking about federal, man. And I don't know that there's any dispute that he had. I don't know what the story is, but the allegation is that he had sex with somebody under the age of 18 and took her from one state to another state, cross state lines, and paid for her travel in order to continue to have sex. Now, in Nevada, nothing wrong with the age of consent for sex is 16. So, okay. But I don't know what states he took her to. I don't know what the laws there are. And it doesn't really matter because the federal law says you can't transport a person under the age of 18 from one place to the other and pay for purposes of having sex. So Gates is in fucking trouble. Like, I mean, Gates is looking at jail time, serious jail time, if those prove to be true. I don't think Watson still doesn't have a criminal investigation really opened. No. All Houston PD said is we're looking into it. Like, okay, now we know who these people are. Well, of course, we're gonna look into it. We're gonna go start asking questions. But if their harshest allegation is he exposed himself and sort of maneuvered his way so that it came into contact with me, I don't see them pressing charges. I don't. If the one allegation of oral sex proves to be forced oral sex, absolutely there'll be charges. That's right. There'll absolutely be charges. But I'm just saying, I've said it now 4 different times on 2 pods and 2 shows. That complaint has a ton of holes in the timeline, and I'm suspect of that complaint. Really suspect.
By the way, is there anything to this that cash apps are not the same as cash?
Is it worse? Wire transfers?
In the eye of the law?
Right. Oh, no, that's correct. Right. That's wire. That's considered that. Yeah, that falls under the wire.
Oh,
Wire Act. So, yeah. So that's federal. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Oh, boy.
This is going to be incredibly creepy sounding, but I'm just trying to be technical with what you said. You said you couldn't transport somebody under the age of 18 to somewhere for the purposes of having sex, and especially paying them would be, another problem. Could he just say, "Hey, that was not the purpose. It happened. Wasn't the purpose."
Well, of course, that's what he's going to say.
Right. So then that is not illegal. Then
I don't think that answer is going to fly, right? Because it's you transported a minor. You paid for the minor to be there, and then you had sex. And that's what the federal statute's going to say is you just trafficked that girl. Now, it's hard to square that round peg with states that have age of consent at under 18, right? That have age of consent at 16. It's like, hey, I didn't break the law in the state of Alabama. It was fine when we went. It's like, well, there's federal law too, buddy. You can't fucking,
I took her on vacation.
Even if you went...
I took her on vacation to 6 states. It just so happened to be the 6 states where 16 was the age of consent.
And still, it would still be illegal because of the federal law. It's the travel.
Wow. I don't know. Is this a joke or is this true that?
No, it's true.
That he was showing the photos to other reps. So could you get a child porn charge?
Only if they're under 18, right? I
Yeah.
mean, I think he was doing it with like I think they said it was girls that he was like meeting on Tinder and stuff.
Well, yeah. Well, then it's not like he took the photos, right? It's on an app. He's
Yeah.
just like, look. I don't think that's gonna. I don't.
Well,
Think
no. He was meeting girls on Tinder and then showing. I'm just saying that they weren't children; they were adults. The ones that he was showing on the floor, the ones that he was showing was like naked pictures of girls that he was with. But they were 18, so it's not really child pornography. It's just creepy and
it's just gross,
douchey.
Yeah.
But to the point earlier, somebody said, Good Old Boys Network is not going to happen. He's despised.
Yeah.
Like he's not Good Old Boys. Nobody likes him. So that's kind of the issue here.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like the person who organized the whole thing is cooperating with the FBI on this. So I don't. If we think that nothing's going to happen, I'm sure he doesn't think nothing's going to happen. I'm sure he's shitting his pants every freaking night now. You know.
Well, he knows. Tucker Carlson knows when Gates is like, yeah, you remember I took her to dinner with you, and he's like, no, whoa, I don't know what you're talking about. I have no idea what you're talking about there, bro. The whole thing is crazy. By the way, can we? I won't. Justin doesn't need to say it as an attorney. I'll just say it as a regular person. If you are going to do illegal things like this on Venmo, get better emojis. Like you have to put a memo in on Venmo. Like there has to be something there. Get something. Yes, he put tuition on one, school on another one. The $300 payment to the 19-year-old girl tuition. Okay, bro. Also, he put a heart and then a hotel on one of them. Like, dude, do you think you're like? First of all, the arrogance, the fucking arrogance of like, oh, nobody's gonna catch this. I'm so much smarter than everybody else. Heart Hotel. Okay. He is the worst.
You got a fiance right now too, right? I haven't been following the story that closely.
Oh, I have. It's awesome. It's an awesome story. Yes, he does. That could end quickly.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering when that will happen. If that'll happen.
What a mess.
Well, you know what? It's like people like him get into politics to do this. That's why they did it. They didn't get into politics to actually like make good, they did it because they were some fucking goofy motherfucker that nobody wanted to be with. They saw an opportunity to get some sort of fucking power and to exert that power to try to make up for lost time, it's people do that in politics everywhere.
There are cash apps that aren't public, by the way. Like there was a couple of the questions there. Like, yeah, you don't use Venmo.
Yeah,
how about that? Like, use Zelle. That's the secret. Not to help people do crimes here, but a little bit more secret. And by the way, deleting things doesn't really help. I know there was some talk about that. Like the phones have already been seized. His fiance's phone was seized. His phone was seized. Everybody's were. They're going to get caught here.
Oh yeah. So Steve, did you want me to answer that about the death penalty, or you want me to let it go?
I don't know. Do whatever you want. I got another. I have one final story I want to hit, so it might take a little time.
Okay. Well, I'll say this. I don't think that there's really any chance that this bill passes and gets signed into law by the governor for a couple of different reasons. One, it's a major step that it even got out of the assembly. The abolish of the death penalty bill is a routine bill that gets brought in every session. It was in the session I was there, and it was in our Judiciary Committee. It got a hearing and didn't have enough votes to get out of a Democratic committee, Democratic controlled committee. So it is a political nuclear bomb. And the reason is in the state of Nevada is at last polling, which was, as far as I recall, 2018, the best polling that they have has shown that 70% of Nevadans support the death penalty. Regardless of the fact of all the challenges and all the expenses, 70% of Nevadans want it as an option, want it on the table, want it to exist. And so with that kind of numbers, it doesn't matter how, Democrat, Republican, or otherwise, when 70% of your state wants something, you're not going to stake your political futures on trying to either convince them that they're wrong or to pass legislation that flies in the face of what the vast majority of the public wants. Now, politically on this one, I'm sure opinions have changed, number one, even since 2008. We've just had a lot of things happen in this world since 2008, I think, especially in regards to law enforcement. I think a lot of people recognize that law enforcement isn't always telling the truth, that prosecutors aren't always doing the right thing, and that's really been highlighted. Thank you to some documentaries, thank you to BLM movement. There's a lot of different reasons why I think public opinion has changed. I wonder what the polls say now. I bet you it's not 70%, but I bet you it's still above 50. Anyway,
I would also like to see the methodology on the polls. If the question is, do you support, are there any cases where you would support the death penalty, is different than do you support the death penalty, right? And I say that as a technicality, I am absolutely against the death penalty. But if you tell me Stephen Paddock lived, okay, yeah, I'm pretty much for it there.
Then you're not against the death penalty, right?
Well, because I am in cases of where we have 100% clarity on the perpetrator. We have I don't want to say mass casualty, but it's it's very specific cases where I'd be like, I don't want to pay to support that guy in jail for the rest of his life. Let's kill him. But I'm anti-death penalty because I don't think it's fair. I think it's much more used as a weapon against the poor and minorities. I don't like the implementation of the death penalty, so I'm against it. But you can convince me there's a case here and there that I'd be okay with it.
Yeah. So I would say you are not against the death penalty. You want to reform the death penalty. I'm against the death penalty because of a couple different reasons. Outside of the morality of whether or not I think it's appropriate for the government to take a life, government bureaucracies to put our faith that they can always make the right decision and be 100% accurate on any set of circumstances. I don't care if you say it has to be multiple deaths by way of whatever. I don't trust the system to be 100% accurate. And if it's 99.9999% accurate, which it's not, but let's say it is, it's still not good enough for me to take somebody's life. Because that means somebody innocent somewhere along the way is going to die. And we have recent examples of that in the state of Nevada and in every state. Every state's got this. Now that DNA evidence come out, we know we have executed innocent people. And not only that, but allowing discretion to come into play into which cases get the death penalty and which do not, by way of prosecutors or judges or juries, necessarily your inherent biases, that is, biases that you are unaware that you have, that you cannot see yourself, are going to come into play. And some people are going to get the death penalty and some people aren't when they've committed the same act. And so therefore I don't support it. It's vastly more expensive to try to execute somebody but still support the Constitution and their due process rights and go through appeals over decades and decades. So it's more expensive. And ultimately, at the end of the day, in Nevada, here's why this bill is not going to pass, I think. Number one, nobody's being killed in the state of Nevada right now because the only way we're allowed to do executions is through injection. And the makers of the drugs will not sell it to the state of Nevada or any other state that uses the drugs for purposes of killing. they've taken a moral stance and said, we will not provide this drug to you in order to kill people. You do not have our authorization. And they tried to move forward and do that anyway and get some of it on the black market here in Nevada. And the drug manufacturers took them to court and said, you can't do that because you're misusing our product and it hurts our brand. And the courts agreed, said you can't do it. So number one, nobody's dying by way of lethal injection in the state of Nevada right now or anytime in the future. Even, we had a person who wanted to be killed, volunteered and could not be killed. And so that's not going to happen. Number two, politically speaking, Governor Sisolak, I believe, has said that he is supporting of the death penalty. Steve Wilson, the district attorney, who's a Democrat, has stated he's for the death penalty. And the committee that has to hear this on the Senate side is the Judiciary Committee. The chair of that is a prosecutor. The Senate Majority Leader for the Senate is a Democrat, but is a prosecutor. And so I think, you had it line up perfectly in the Assembly for it to get out, but politically, speaking in the Senate, there's nowhere. I don't even know if it'll get a hearing in the Judiciary Committee. If it does, it's not getting out. That's my prediction. I don't know. I don't have any inside knowledge on any of that other than exactly what I said. The two people that are responsible for getting it out of the Senate are prosecutors, which means I would assume, I'm making an assumption. I've never had a conversation with either of them about their position on the death penalty, but I would make the assumption that they're in favor of it.
But there's a lot of making the murder talk on the timeline right now.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to catch up with.
No, there was actually a huge break in the case this week.
What happened?
There was I say a huge break. Everything's a huge break with that world, but a witness came forward that said they went to the police to make a police report during the time where Teresa Halbach was missing. And the police were like, get out of here. We already know who did it. Like, we don't need to hear from you. It was a delivery driver who said he saw somebody matching the description of Bobby Dassey, who I think is the main suspect, moving or pushing a RAV4 onto the property. Oh, look at this. And so, they said that they had gone to the police and the police were like, listen, we already know who did it. This doesn't really help us. Get the fuck out. And now they've come forward and are willing to talk about it and testify to it. So this is a big deal. But again, like Catherine, Zellner, I forgot her name. Kathleen Zellner has tried over and over to get a new trial, and she can't. She hasn't been able to do it, and nothing would go forward unless they can actually get a trial. And it doesn't seem like there's much appetite in the state to listen to any of this. But this would be pretty massive if the police had turned down a witness who had, exculpatory evidence against Stephen Avery. The issue here, a lot of people think that Bobby Dassey did it with his stepfather, which is the other Tadich. I can't remember his first name. And the second person that was pushing the RAV4 does not match his description. So that's kind of problematic to be like, well, your whole theory is that it's, Bobby and this other guy, and the people pushing the car were Bobby and some other person. So like that is a little bit problematic, I suppose. But there's new developments all the time. And yes, to the points here, we're now gonna have to get involved again because now there's gonna definitely be a third season. We're gonna get 10 more episodes based on turning down this witness. It's great. And some of the family drama is awesome too. Brad Dassey, who we like to talk about on Twitter with his goofy raps. He was just going off yesterday. I think he might have been drunk, and he was just on Twitter just ranting about how his cousin did it, and he's like, Bobby did it. Like, enough of this goofiness. Like, let's put him in jail. All right, settle down.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I didn't even know there was season 2.
Oh yeah. Yeah, the lady from she's the Innocence Project, and then this Kathleen Zellner lady who's got a bunch of people off on evidence after they've been convicted. she got involved and went through a whole thing, and she basically presented her theory of the case, and that does involve Bobby being the killer. Brad Dassey with the sick bars. He doesn't have sick bars. He sucks.
Yeah, injustice slammed in the face of two innocent people. They didn't do it, they didn't do it. No, come to your senses, everything is just foolish. Things clearly show that it was just a joke. Cops were only there just to prod and poke. Not a fair trial, not a fair game. Whole thing's whack, just a lying shame. Innocent girl, just gone missing. Puzzle is broken, people upset, just a bad bet. He's suspicious, she's suspicious. Everybody think these two just did it. Killed the girl, such a whirlwind. Got the whole world talking trash. Just stick to the facts, leave alone Mr. Kratz. Dude's trying to run, trying to hide. Random Minnesota, give the guy soda. Just trying to live his life while you gotta talk smack.
That was awesome. Get the guy a soda. I don't know how that. I don't
Random
know.
Minnesota, get the guy a soda. It rhymes. That's why. It's perfect. They didn't do it. They didn't do it. So good.
How about I want just 5 more minutes. I just wanted to get a prediction from you guys. I thought this was well, it's really from Adam. I thought this was pretty big the other day. New York Post story talking about UFC and the relationship with ESPN and Adam's boy Ariel Helwani. So will Ariel be covering UFC for ESPN next year or Levitard?
Oof, good question.
Did you read the story, Adam?
I did not. I heard some things about it. I did not read it yet.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to do with the draft or the Dassies. I'm out.
Yeah, right. He says Helwani's coverage is comparable to Woj. Talks about his followers. He seems like the type of guy ESPN would want to keep around. But new contract may not be happening. And basically, it suggests that Dana White's going to push him out. And it brings up the history between them where Dana had stripped Ariel back in 2016 for life of his press credentials, gave him back. Also says White labeled Helwani an agitator and in a sexist remark likened Helwani to a girl, implying he is weak. This February, White referred to the reporter as a douche after Helwani, who is Jewish, commented on his personal Instagram about MMA fighter and actress Gina Carano. So what do you think happens here?
I mean, it's a big test for ESPN, I think, in terms of this deal. It's been clear from the beginning that the UFC does not want Ariel working for ESPN and on the coverage of fights. If you pay close attention, I don't know how much people do pay attention, but if you really do pay attention, have you seen Ariel at a fight? Have you seen him anywhere near an event? You haven't. He's been covering from afar. Also, the comparison to Woj, listen, Ariel's done great work in the past. What does he get now? Because he's on the outside,
right?
It's if there's a Woj, and listen, am I biased? Yes. One of my best friends is Brett Okamoto. Brett is Woj. He breaks everything, and there's a reason for that. One, he's a good reporter, but two, I mean, Dana intentionally gives Brett the information because he doesn't like Ariel. So, like, there is only one Woj now in terms of reporters in the MMA, and it used to be both of them, and now it's definitely Brett. Not that Ariel's not great at what he does, he is. But the UFC has successfully, I think, squeezed him out of all that. Now, Ariel does really well on his own, as the podcast that he does, the hits that he does a lot of TV stuff, he does a lot of Sports Center stuff. He's done a great job. But it's pretty clear that Brett is the preferred media member of the UFC. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, that's up for debate. But that's clear at this point. So I think absolutely there's a chance that the UFC is successful in pushing him out, because I'm sure Ariel thinks, as much as he likes working for ESPN and he likes that status and he likes being allowed to do the basketball games and everything else that he does. I think he'd like to be there, but I think he probably knows he could make more somewhere else. And if they're not going to if they're not going to step up and defend him, and the UFC is going to be allowed to push him out, I think that's really, really unfortunate for the sport and for journalism in general. But I think the UFC does have a lot of power with him.
There you go. That was a good answer.
I was going to ask if there's a legal thing there, but really, I mean, if you have a contract, there's really probably not much they can do. Be like, we just don't want him there.
Yeah, I mean, it matters, right? I mean, TV contracts and the relationships with the sports and all of that. And if you are not favored by one of their partners, I mean, it's a valid job-based reason why you would not get a new contract. If it was where it could be tricky is, if Dana didn't like Ariel based on national origin because he's from Canada, and that was the only reason, or based on race, or the fact that he's Jewish, and that was the whole reason, and ESPN sided with Dana, then they were executing his reason, his bias, and then you could maybe get into trouble on the claim. But if it just doesn't like the guy and doesn't want him reporting, then I don't see any legal action that can be brought.
Damn. Death of journalism. God damn it. Well,
Everybody's going to go to Lebitard.
Yeah, it's the line that's been skewed with partnerships. So when news outlets partner up, as broadcast partners, then all of a sudden that line is skewed, and it's happened before. So we'll see what happens. We'll see if anyone at ESPN steps up for him.
Steve just got some good news on a side note.
What happened? What did I get? Did I get a save or something?
Yeah, from David fucking Price.
Oh yeah, let's do it.
Jesus Christ.
Who knew Adam Hill was this intense about fantasy baseball right from the get-go?
Well, it wasn't about fantasy baseball. It was about a bet. Well, they were down two, and I got them at a very, very, very good price. Minus 1.5.
I'm sorry.
No, I got it. I won.
Oh, you did get it. Okay.
They were down 2, and I got a plus $6 at minus 1.5, and they won 7-5.
Hello.
Yeah.
All right, that'll do it tonight. Thank you guys. That was awesome. Really good comments too. This is some of the best comments we've had in forever. Now we always have good comments. So thank you. Appreciate it. Hope everyone's doing well. Awkward close. I wish I don't know. I don't know what to say anymore. I'm out.
Glad we finally talked about Deshaun Watson after ignoring it for months and months.
Oh, we're part of the cover up. Yeah.